I just find this hilarious. This article is from The Hollywood Reporter. Sarah Michelle Gellar hopes Buffy Reboot pilot doesn't leak. Urges fans not to read script. The Buffy star weighs in on the latest news in Disney's very messy reboot cancellation. Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, there was a Buffy Reboot TV show in the works and they shot a pilot for it. But yeah, for those people who've read the leaked script, you can probably get the idea why someone wouldn't want the actual pilot to be released. It was impressively bad as a script. So yeah, if the pilot is anything to go by. It had a new cast, but Sarah Michelle Gellar was going to return as Buffy Summers in a semi-regular role, which I don't think fans would have wanted, to be honest. I don't even know how you can call the show Buffy. It was going to be called Buffy New Sunnydale, but you're going to name the show after a character who's only going to be in the show on a semi-regular basis. And she was only going to be in one scene of the pilot episode, just at the end, according to the script that was leaked. So it was a cameo that felt a lot like Luke Skywalker's cameo at the end of Force Awakens. The former hero, a shadow of his former self. In this case, Buffy was working in a boring corporate office job. And that's not how fans wanted to see their beloved character. That's not how they would want to see Buffy return. If you're going to do a Buffy reboot, if you're going to do a revival of the show, you know, you might want to actually feature Buffy in a more prominent role, say the main role, instead of focusing almost entirely on new characters, a new Slayer, a new Scooby Gang, who were possibly even less likable than the main cast of cadets from Star Trek Starfleet Academy. The article says, the actress was on Sirius XM's Page 6 radio on Wednesday when she was asked about the controversy, which was sparked by the streamer deciding last week not to move forward with a sequel to the 1990s cult hit series directed by Oscar winner Chloe Zhao. Host Evan Reel said he hoped the scrapped pilot directed by Zhao leaks online, but Gellar had a different point of view. I actually hope it doesn't, because then everyone's going to have an opinion on this and that, and pilots are not finished, said the actress, who's currently making the media rounds, promoting her new horror movie, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come, which opens this weekend. Yeah, look, they're going to have an opinion on it one way or the other. I mean, they're going to have an opinion on a completed pilot as well, right? But their opinion would be positive if the pilot was good, regardless as to whether it's finished or not. And if the script was anything to go by, I'd say there wasn't too much to shout about. I mean, sure, yeah, some visual effects may not have been completed for the pilot. I mean, yes, maybe some of the post-production work wasn't all finished. But audiences will forgive that kind of thing. I mean, they can be understanding. But even without seeing a leaked pilot, we can read the script and see some of the very clear issues there, including some woke feminist buzzwords that were in the pilot and plenty of cringe. So it says, it wasn't done, right? It's not like we did a season and finished it and then they shelved it. It's not like when they made the Batgirl movie and didn't release it. That movie was finished. You make a pilot, and I want to clarify this, we made a pilot first instead of a full season on purpose because there's some new characters and you want to see how it goes. There are things you learn from it and there are things you fix. Usually the first version of a pilot doesn't air. It's a learning tool. The original Buffy pilot had nothing to do with the show. It was a different Willow. It was a very different show. But those are learning tools, and that's what a pilot is. Yeah, and Batgirl was cancelled because it was bad. The film was actually largely finished. But to your point, yes, the pilot of a show is used to showcase the concept of a show to the network. And for them to determine whether it's worth greenlighting a series. And it has happened that a show has had more than one pilot, for example. Like Buffy. There was an original unaired pilot of the original 1997 show. It wasn't a great pilot, but it was good enough to warrant the show being greenlit. Do you know what I mean? So that's very significant. it was good enough for a second pilot to be made. And then the show was picked up for the first season. And it was similar with Star Trek. Star Trek had an original unaired pilot called The Cage. And originally it wasn't aired. And then they went with a new pilot. They reworked it with a new pilot, and they brought in William Shatner to play Captain Kirk. And they made Where No Man Has Gone Before. And then they worked in bits of the original pilot, The Cage, into a 2-part episode called The Menagerie. But they would later, some years later, they would air the original pilot in its original form, The Cage. But look, this particular pilot that was made for this Buffy New Sunnydale reboot, it evidently wasn't good enough to justify greenlighting the series. You know, and I suspect it's because of the content of the script, which was just bad. And I think if they'd moved forward with it, I think the show would have been a disservice to the legacy of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It says Geller noted that there's a version of the Buffy Reboot pilot script making the rounds online, and she hopes fans avoid reading it. And for the same reason, I've seen a version of the script out there, she said. It's not actually correct. That stuff is really unfortunate, and I ask fans, if you see scripts, if you see it leaked, don't watch it because you're not getting our vision and all of that. Right, so perhaps the leaked script may not have been the final shooting draft, but I guess it must have been close enough. Maybe they made a bunch of changes. It says Geller added the reason she's spoken out about the cancellation is that the Buffy reboot deserves respect. And respect is earned. Does it deserve respect? That's kind of subjective, you know? I mean, I don't think the script that was leaked deserves respect. I can say that much. I haven't seen the pilot, but yeah, if the script is anything to go on. She says, and when I don't see it being given the respect, then I have to stand up for that because that's important to me. Okay, look, it's just a TV pilot, okay? And pilots are used as a proof of concept. And that's the way it's been in television for a long time. Pilots get rejected all the time. And this one was no different. In fact, if you're so convinced that it was a mistake for this show to not be greenlit, then why wouldn't you want this pilot to be released? Because what are you basing your belief on that the show was worth greenlighting in the first place? What are you basing the belief on that this show deserves respect? You made the pilot. Are you not happy with the pilot? Because that was your proof of concept. If you don't think the pilot can do the concept justice, then what are you basing the concept of this reboot on? To me, this attitude just, it feels like entitlement, to be quite honest. Finally, I'll say that I would not have wanted to have seen Buffy come back, considering that, firstly, I think that time has passed. I think that show was of a particular era. I think it worked well back then, late 90s, early 2000s. But also, Disney owns the rights to Buffy, and I don't think that Disney has been... I don't think they've done a great job with a lot of big IPs that they own in recent years. The likes of Indiana Jones, the likes of the MCU, and Star Wars. So yeah, I don't think Buffy would have probably fared all that well. It probably would have got the woke treatment, and certainly if you look at the script, that's certainly how it feels. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this one in the comments below. I might do more of these kind of videos periodically on Computing Forever. Take care. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.